Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my thoughts and review for Sinners. Full disclosure, I feel like I still need to process some things. There's like some connections that are still being made about like the themes and the messages in this film. I feel like I don't enjoy it as much as I perceive other people to have enjoyed it. Not saying that I think it's bad or anything like that, but like people are raving about it, saying like how much they love it, all this stuff, and I'm like, I really enjoyed it, but I don't feel that way about this film. But I feel like it's fine. Everybody's gonna be different. And maybe once I process things a little bit more, I'll get up to that. Right now, I'm not there. But non-spoiler thoughts before I get into my spoiler review and some of my thoughts and what I really enjoyed about the film. I'm gonna say it's a very interesting film. It's also like really strange, I think. Um, if you've seen any of the trailers or previews, so like no spoilers with this, but this is about um, like black people in the South in Mississippi that are like fighting off vampires, and like it deals with like other kind of mystical or I guess whimsical themes. And um, I think with that, there's like it's not your typical vampire movie is what I'll say, which I felt that was like one of the strange aspects to me, but also one of the interesting the interesting aspects. I also think that the setting is interesting. It's set in like 1930s Mississippi, so not even 100 years since slavery was abolished. So there are like sharecroppers in the film, and people that are still trying to find theirs, what freedom means to them, which I thought was an interesting theme that they kept coming back to. But I also like to see like black people in charge, especially in that time period where it's like a lot of black people are still disenfranchised. Um, I think that's probably one of my favorite aspects of this film, until the vampires and stuff show up. um, so if you're into any or all of those things, I think Sinners would be a good movie for you to watch. I would recommend it. Um, I think it's probably the most talked about film of this year so far. Probably gonna be the most talked about film as we step into 2026, because there's so much to break down, and that's why I'm still processing everything, still thinking about the different connections. But this was cool. This was very cool. If you can watch it with the 70 millimeter, then you should do that. It's like one of the special screenings that you can do. But yeah, I think jumping into my spoiler thoughts now. So if you haven't seen it, this is the time to make your decision on whether you want to see the rest of the video. There are some scenes that I wanted to highlight and kind of like talk through why I enjoyed them. So I'm gonna try and go through like how the scene appeared chronologically, but emphasis on try. So starting with the scene at the beginning of Smoke, and I keep trying to. I get the names confused, and you already know I'm not great with names. So it's like they're two twins, like Michael B. Jordan playing two different people, so they look exactly alike. Their names both start with an S, and they have like the names kind of go together, like the Smokestack twins. So it's like it's hard. I get them confused. I'm gonna try not to do that here though. I guess actually just starting with that, I was really impressed with Michael B. Jordan's performance. I do feel like both characters were very distinct from one another, where you could tell like which one is Smoke, which one is Stack. I will say wardrobe definitely did. It was a huge help with that as far as like Smoke typically wears like blue, like less flashy stuff. Stack wears more like flashy things. He wears red. I think that was pretty helpful. Also, the fact that not even just wardrobe, but talking about their actual characters, Smoke kind of has like a little bit of a a shake. I don't know if it's like a nervous shake or if he had like some kind of tremor or something. Stack seemed like a little bit more laid back, and he would actually roll Smoke's cigarettes for him since it was hard for Smoke to do with the tremor. Um, yeah, no, I think he did a really great job with that. That alone, I feel like he should at least get an award for that performance because it's really hard to play two different characters and keep them distinct from each other. I feel like the visual effects team should also get something for that because I think there's maybe one moment where Smoke and Stack were they weren't interacting, but I think like Stack was in the crowd. And I was like, that doesn't really look like Michael B. Jordan. Or it did, but I'm like, not enough where I feel like it is Michael B. Jordan. That was only happened one time. So they did a really great job with that. But yeah, now back to the scenes in the film. There was a scene where Smoke went into town with this truck full of booze from Chicago that he was going to bring to the juke joint later on. And he told this little girl, like, hey, I need you to watch my truck. If you see someone's trying to mess with the truck, like, honk the horn, and I'll pay you to do it. And he said he was going to pay her 10 cents. And she was like, oh, cool, okay. Or 10 cents for every minute that he's gone. She's like, oh, cool, okay. He's like, no. Like, let's try this again. And this isn't exact words, but he was basically like, don't always accept the first offer that's given to you. Like, if you feel like your time, your effort, your skill, whatever it is worth more, you should ask for more. And I think that's something that's really valuable that not just, I feel like, Black people can do more is like advocating for themselves and like speaking up if they feel like they're not getting what they're worth. But especially as a Black female, I saw a statistic recently, but it was like Black women are one of the most like educated groups in terms of like getting college degrees and everything like that, but they're also usually the most underpaid group as well. And I think a sliver of the reason why might be negotiation. It's like we feel like, oh, like we're lucky to get this opportunity. We're lucky to get what we're getting, and we don't ask for more, like many of our other like peers and colleagues would do. So I think that was a great lesson to like impart on that little girl because I'm sure that there's going to be a moment where she's going to be like given an opportunity to get some kind of reward, not even just money, and she can advocate for herself to be like, I think I deserve more. So I enjoyed that. And we even see like Smoke use it later on in the film when he's talking to the people in the Chow's shop about like getting a sign put up in front of the juke joint. They do like a little bit of negotiation before landing on a number that like both parties are cool with. Let's see. And then kind of skip into the juke joint. First off, I found it interesting that this movie kind of all happened in one day. Because, like, the whole, like, 70% of the day was pretty good. I would say pretty good. And it's funny because even Preacher Boy mentions this at the end of the film. Like, before the sun went down, he said, that was the best day of my life. Because he got to be with his cousins. They were going to pay him to make music. He got to play music, be around other people. He got to be intimate with a lady. A married lady at that. So it's like, I do feel like everything up until the vampire attack, I'm like, dang. It's just Black people living large, being in charge, finding a way to, like, get a little bit of that freedom that they're wanting that they know they don't fully have at the moment. An opportunity for them to make community and come together. Like, these are all like pretty good things that were going on up until the vampire attack, which was funny. But back to the juke joint with Preacher Boy, and I think the most at least for me, most memorable moment of the movie and something that's been widely talked about. Now that I can expose myself to the conversation of sinners that's been happening on the internet, Preacher Boy's performance and him kind of putting the gift on display. They talk about at the beginning of the movie that there are some musicians that have the gift to bring both ancestors and descendants together, I guess in more of a spiritual fashion, to create like a musical piece that's um, like that transcends time basically and brings all these people together. So when they said that, I don't really know what I was expecting as far as performance goes. But when Preacher Boy starts to get into that performance and he really puts his soul into it, this I think his name is Miles Canton. I'll put it on the screen if I need to make a correction, but he has a beautiful voice, and I feel like it was. I don't know if it was just for this film that I think my friend did said he did learn how to sing and play blues specifically for this film, but it feels like he's been singing blues like his whole entire life. It's like just very beautiful singing and beautiful performance. But as like his blues performance is going on, then they start bringing in like African music from presumably his ancestors and just like the base as to how like blues came to be, you know, like the building blocks. And then we go to the future where guys playing electric guitar, there's somebody rapping, there's breakdancing, there's like girls twerking in the back. Like it's just the wildest thing I feel like I've seen a movie in a long time and very interesting. I feel like there's so much to break down as well there. Um, what am I gonna say? I also felt like I was kind of stunned is like the word that came to mind. Mesmerized feels like not the right word, but it was shocking to see all these people like you know we're put into the mindset of like okay this is the 1930s and then we're seeing like stuff from our time kind of come in stuff from the 2000s like early 2000s and just like everything kind of get mixed together. I'm like wow that is um really interesting like beautiful imagery and something that was I guess kind of explored in South of Midnight, which is a game I just played, which is actually also about like Southern like culture and Southern folklore and mentions Haints actually. So that's the first time I learned Haints. So by the time I seen this film, I'm like, oh okay, like I'm kind of familiar with Haints. Um, that was really interesting to see and something that I think is really cool because like a lot of black people often talk about like ancestry and like um calling on the ancestors to get strength and things like that. So to see it visualized in that manner was really intriguing to me. And I definitely want to watch this movie again because I feel like there are themes that not as obvious as the like all the ancestors coming together, but other things like that that I'm like trying to process and maybe it's just like not sinking all the way through. But it was just very interesting. Um, then my next point I have here on the list. By the way, I was recording this video before, and then I for some reason my computer's been crashing about every day for some reason. I think it was some kind of update that I did. I don't know. So I had a lot more I wanted to say, but then I came back and I just boiled the list down. But another thing was with the vampires. For some reason, well, I know what the reason was. So, in a lot of the marketing for Sinners, we only ever see, at least I can remember, white vampires. So I thought that maybe this was like a white devil situation where it's like, oh, like don't mess with them. Um, and then in the movie, many black people get bitten, and even Haley Steinfeld's character, which I feel like she did a good job with this role. It was interesting. She says that she's like an eighth black. I guess. Well, she doesn't say that explicitly, but basically the way she explains is like her grandfather or something was black, so that makes her like an eighth black. Um, I thought that was kind of interesting. So I'm like, I guess she was the first black person to have been bitten and turned. So funny enough, the same marketing that they were showing me, where I was looking at a white person. I was like, technically in the movie they're black. I don't know. Apparently, Haley Steinfeld, she does have a half black grandfather in real life. So like that was something interesting. I'll learn that about her. But yeah, so other everybody can be a vampire basically. And what was interesting about it was I feel like most of the people, except for Stack, funny enough, but most of the people when they became a vampire, it seemed like they became much more confident. They said what was on their mind. They asked for what they wanted, and it seemed like most of the time they got it. And that just those things, at least for me, inherently made them more attractive. So I'm like, all the vampires, like they kind of, they're doing their thing in this. Stack, I felt like he was already kind of doing all those things. So when he became a vampire, not a lot changed. Not a lot changed. I would say maybe he became a little bit manipulative. Because he was trying to get his brother to turn with him as well, because they go together, they do everything together, so it would make sense for him to want his brother to become a vampire so they could both live forever. um that was the only thing where like I hadn't seen him be kind of manipulative like that previously. But yeah, that was interesting. That was very interesting. And then one of the more interesting parts about Sinner's versions of vampires is that they were kind of a hive mind. So Remick, who was like the main vampire guy, well, sorry, my air conditioning just kicked on, but he's the main vampire. I don't even know if they really say his name in the movie because I only found out about it when I looked at the cast list afterwards. But I'm kind of confused as to. It felt like he had a deeper motive because he goes up to like this group of black folks and says, like, I want to free you or give you some semblance of freedom, which, is that theme again. Basically from death by turning them into vampires, which is interesting that he gave that proposition, I guess, because I don't think anybody in the movie was looking for freedom from death per se, more so than just freedom in life, and being able to just be free people. Um, so when he started turning people, and like this has to be like a greater plot, right? Like there has to be something else, like the reason as to why he's doing this. Like I just didn't trust him. And it seems like in the end, maybe he did just like, he was for equality. He just wanted specifically. And it was kind of funny because they go up to this white couple's house with they're a part of the clan. So clearly, they're not going to be super cooperative with these Native Americans. And they're actually the first people that Remick ends up turning, and they all of a sudden don't become racist, I guess. I don't know. But it's interesting that I think it's I don't want to say the wrong name. But this group of Native Americans, like they know kind of what's going on and like how bad things can get, but once the sun starts going down, they're like, yeah, we're out of here. I wasn't really expecting them to see them at any other point in the game, or in the movie. because of that, because I'm like, they tried, so now it's just minding your own business. But I did see some other people be like, where did they go, like what happened? It's like they said they was gonna go home. Like they're not trying to get into this vampire business, because clearly you see it didn't work out for Smoke or Stack. But then the other interesting thing about Remick was the fact that he was traveling alone. Like, I don't know. I don't know what vampire turned him and why he wasn't traveling with them. Or maybe it was because he was so, like, open minded, I guess, and willing to bring everybody into the fold. I'm not completely sure. Um, but yeah, I kind of found that to be a little interesting. After Preacher Boy's performance, he attracts the vampires. The vampires attack. They pretty much take everybody out except for Smoke and Preacher Boy. Preacher Boy runs away, goes back to his father's church as the sun is coming up. Smoke sticks around because I forget where he got this information, but he basically learned that the only reason this white man sold him the old mill was so that way the Klan could come back and like kill all the black people that are partying in the mill inside the juke joint. So Smoke takes off this charm that he got from his lover. I don't know if that was his wife necessarily, Annie. But she made it to protect him using like mojo. They called it mojo. I think it might have been like something like voodoo. She made it to protect him, and it had protected him up until that point when he took it off. Because you actually see there's like a force that kept Stack from biting Smoke, and the fight that had happened earlier, which he did let Stack go, which I was like, ooh, I get it. The ooh, I understood. So he takes the charm off, and to me, I was thinking about it, I'm like, why would he do that? I'm like, I don't get it. But then I feel like it was kind of a sign that he was ready to like get a different kind of freedom, which in which case his freedom was death, because he was going to be reunited with the one that he loves and his child that had passed while she was a baby. So I thought that was kind of interesting too, that he went that route instead of trying to find his brother at some point and become a vampire. Um, but yeah, I don't think living forever was very appealing to Smoke. I think he kind of just he wanted money to get power, but I think he wanted that power so that he could have the freedom of choice, pretty much. Not necessarily like to rule over people or like a legacy kind of thing. Even though I do think he wanted his child to survive and therefore having a legacy, but yeah, that was interesting. That was an interesting decision. So he tears up the Klansman and he gets shot. Um, so he dies at the battle, but just before he dies, he's able to see Annie and his daughter. So I assume he made it to heaven, which is about as happy of an ending as you can have with that. Especially after he just killed a bunch of people, he's pretty lucky he still made it into heaven, without any kind of I guess asking for forgiveness. Granted, they were bad people, but I would assume you still gotta make right with the Lord and everything. And then at the very end of the movie, at the mid-credit scene, we have Preacher Boy. It's like 60 years later. I think it's like 1990. He's become, I'm not sure about a famous musician, but famous enough to where, he is a successful musician and able to seemingly tour to different places to play his music. And I assume, like, bring healing to communities instead of pain. I kind of talked about this in the previous recording that I made. To try and focus it, because I was kind of all over the place. the beginning section where they talk about musicians and the gift that they have and how they're able to like bring healing, but it also attracts evil. I'm wondering, at least in Preacher Boy's case, because you see the evil that he brought onto the juke joint, like got pretty much everybody that was there killed. I'm wondering if the good that he brings outweighs the bad. We don't really ever dig into that in the movie, but that was just a thought I had because he continued to be a musician even after the juke joint incident. So he's closing up shop after just performing. He's is kind of called to the side, and Stack and Mary walk in, who are turned into vampires. So they still look um, the same as when they did back in 1930, and they're like, if you want to become a vampire, we could do it for you right now. You smell like you're about to die, which was crazy to hear. It was like, you smell like you're about to die. Listen, we can fix that. You won't die. You won't have any pain. You'll be good. And Preacher Boy says no. He's like, I'm good. I've seen enough on this earth that I'm like, I'm ready to get off of it whenever that time comes. Just like, I get that. Um, and I thought it was like a little bit funny that they would approach Preacher Boy as like an old man. Because I'm like, if you were gonna turn him, I feel like you should have turned him while he was young. At least for me, I'm like, I don't want to be an old vampire. I would rather be a young vampire so you can be forever young, not forever old. I'm like, that would kind of stink. During the performance of the juke joint where like all the ancestors and descendants come together, where you see like the juke joint is on fire. I do feel like that was foreshadowing for like things to come where like pretty much everybody dies. But yeah, I would be curious to hear like, does he feel another thing that Smoke was saying to him, like he was saying he should drop this, become like a decent black man, don't mess with any of the like devilry, I guess. I don't know why they saw like music or blues as like devil music. Um, Granted, I mean, some like interesting things were said, but I don't think it was anything that was crossed the line of like, oh, this is evil kind of thing. But I was also back in the day where I feel like people were more conservative about that kind of stuff. But Smoke told him like he should stop playing, just like kind of leave this stuff alone because it's not. Um, all the musicians that he's ever met have been unhappy in life, and I wonder if that happened for the Preacher Boy as well, where he was unhappy. And even in the moment when he was talking to Stack and saying like, I've seen enough of this earth that I want to get off of it. Um, I wonder if part of that is maybe like a little bitterness, like something happened where he's like, what? Why would I extend my time here any more than I already have? So I don't know. Yeah, very interesting. I don't really have a lot of bad things to say. I'm just like, I really don't feel like this hit for me the way it hit for other people, which is totally fine. The one little nitpicky thing I have, I felt like I did see Michael B. Jordan's double at one point. It was like Smoke and Stack weren't standing like super close together, and the emphasis was more on one brother than the other. And I think because of that, they just like put the double in another spot where it's like nobody's gonna be looking at that. But I was looking at that, and I was like, that doesn't really look like him. Like it did, but it didn't, because doubles don't look exactly like the person who they're doubling. Um, but yeah, it gave me a lot to think about. I feel if I understood Rimmick's motive and what he was trying to achieve and maybe what he did or didn't do, maybe I would have felt more satisfied with seeing the ending. Oh, that reminds me, there was two other things I wanted to mention. Oh my gosh. Okay, real quick. The Irish chick. I don't know any black Irish people, so seeing all those black people do an Irish jig, very interesting to me. The other thing, Remick basically baptizing Preacher Boy, I thought was interesting, and I'm not sure what the message or theme was with that, or if it was just like, we know this is like a church process, let's do it, but there's gonna be like a demon or something doing it. Basically, does that just a not shock value kind of thing, but an antithesis to what's typically done. I don't know. I talked about that way more in the other thing, but we're already at like, I see 30 minutes on my thing. I'm probably gonna cut this down a little bit, but not too much. So I should wrap it up. I should cut the yapping. But please let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. I'm sure most of you are probably like, oh, this hit for me in every single kind of way. And I'm really happy about that. I do want to give this another watch and see like if there are more things that I can pick up, because it is just like, it does have my mind racing where I'm trying to connect all the dots. Um and maybe that's why my initial reaction is like, I did like this, but I want to know many questions as to why things happen the way they happen. Um, but yeah, if you enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. If you're looking for more reviews, I think my next thing is probably gonna be anime. I do want to talk about the Fantastic Four, which comes out not too far from here. So yeah, until either of those reviews, hopefully you guys have a nice evening or night. Was enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.